That's how a starter is supposed to fire. Most likely that single click is your solenoid working properly, but the brushes or something in the motor is going bad. Hey, welcome back to Budget Mechanic. If you're watching this video, you are probably having a hard time starting your car. And if that's the case, I bet you're also hearing some noises accompanying that no start. In today's video, we're going to talk about all the noises your car makes when it's not starting. We're going to talk about why they happen, and make sure you stick around to the end because we're going to tell you how to fix it. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to Budget Mechanic and turn on those notifications so you don't miss on any upcoming content. So, the first sound you may be hearing when your car's not starting is no sound at all. Like no sound. Like no dinging of the ignition, no radio coming on, nothing in the cab or under the hood. That's going to be 9 times out of 10 a totally dead battery. Or like you forgot to connect the battery. That's how dead it would need to be. A lot of people don't realize that if you leave a battery long enough, it will get weaker and weaker and eventually completely die. So if you leave your car go on a long trip and come back after a few months, there's a good chance it may be totally dead. The next sound you might hear when you try to start your car is sounds inside the cab. So you turn the key of the ignition and you'll get that dinging sound from the ignition, or your radio might turn back on. So just like we showed in a recent video where we hooked up a drill battery to a car, and we'll link to that video above, a small or weak battery will power some functions of the car, like radio or some lights, but it's not enough to actually crank the motor over. So if this is what you're hearing inside the cab, chances are it's your battery again. So that can be a bad battery or weak battery, or it can be the terminals or wiring leading to the battery that are dirty or disconnected or damaged somehow. So the next sound you'll hear when you try to start the car is a single click every time you try to turn the key, and it'll be coming from under the hood. Now this can be a weak battery, but more often than not, it's a starter issue. So a lot of people have heard of a starter and know that it has something to do with starting your car. This is what a typical starter looks like. So it's kind of basically, without getting in the weeds, two parts. It's a solenoid, it's a big switch, and the motor itself with a little mechanism to fire a gear that engages with your motor and starts the engine. So I've got this starter hooked up to a 12-volt battery, and with a screwdriver, I'm going to mimic what happens when you turn the key in the ignition. And in a properly functioning starter, power should go from that switch into the solenoid, which should fire the starter, and a gear should pop out right here to engage your flywheel or your motor. That's how a starter is supposed to fire. And when you're hearing the single click, it's going to be something to do with this solenoid switch or the motor not receiving power. Most likely that single click is your solenoid working properly, but the brushes or something in the motor is going bad. The next sound you'll hear when you try to start your car is multiple clicks, like a chattering sound. And that's, again, your starter system trying to fire but not being able to. So this can be part of the starter, just like the last one, either your solenoid or your motor, or it can also be your electrical system with your battery. And I would say most likely if you're getting the multiple clicks, it's your battery. This is because it takes a lot of power to fire a starter motor. So if you have a battery that's weak or the connections are loose or dirty, it won't have enough power to fire the solenoid in the motor and hold it in that position. It'll constantly engage and then not have enough current, so it'll disengage and then engage right away again, and you'll get that constant clicking or chattering. Now the next sound you may hear when trying to start your car is a grinding sound or a screeching noise, or even some people describe it as like a zinging sound. And it will usually be really loud, coming from under the hood, and almost always it's going to be coming from your starter motor gear. The way that this gear is supposed to work is when the starter fires, the Bendix system is supposed to kick this gear out and engage the flywheel, which is the part of the motor that has the gears that the starter hooks into. So you can actually have a failure inside the starter with that Bendix, so the gear is not able to fire out properly and not mesh with the flywheel, and so you get grinding gears. You can also have damaged teeth on this gear or damaged teeth on the flywheel, and again, won't allow the gears to mesh. So anytime you're getting that grinding, screaming noise, really loud, it has to do with gears not meshing properly. And keep in mind, this sound can also continue after the car has started. So in some cases, the starter engages, starts the motor, but won't disengage. And a couple reasons for that happening are, again, the damaged teeth or Bendix system not allowing the starter to disengage. So the car is running and the starter is like along for the ride, and you get really loud, nasty sounds. Another reason for the sticking starter is electrical. So you're supposed to turn the key to that starting position and then you release it. Well, the starter thinks that you're still trying to turn the key in the starting position and it's continuing to fire. And that's on the electrical end of things. So the next sound is just a whirring noise, like a spinning sound. It's an electrical motor just spinning under your hood. And it literally is just the starter spinning, but it's not engaging anything. That goes back again to the system that's supposed to kick that drive gear out and engage with your motor. So whether that's the starter not being bolted on properly and not allowing it to engage, or the system, the Bendix system that kicks that gear out is broken, it's going to be a starter issue. Now the next sound you might hear when your car is not starting is the engine cranking, but really slow and weak. It would be like a row, 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 row. So this sound is your starter working correctly, but without enough power behind it. So that brings us back to our battery issues as the most likely culprit. Weak battery, bad connections, dirty connections, etc. Now the last one isn't really a startup sound per se, but it is a starting issue, so we got to talk about it. When you turn the key and the car cranks as normal, sounds just like it should, but it just won't start up. Now this is kind of a separate issue because there's a lot of things that can lead to a car not actually starting up. Fortunately, we've made an exhaustive video on this topic and you can check it out in the link above. The silver lining with this issue is that you know that your starter's good, your battery's good, and probably your alternator's good as well. Now that we've covered all the sounds your car could make when it's not starting, let's fix it. Now, if the sounds you're hearing are pointing to starter-specific issues, so that would be your single click sound, that grinding, screaming, or just the whirring electric motor sound, almost always that means you're going to need to replace or repair your starter. Now, replacing the starter on a standard-sized car or truck is usually going to be around $150, $200. So if you're having starter issues, it usually just makes sense to get a new starter. However, if you have a larger vehicle or one that has a more specialty starter, a brand new one can cost $500 or more. Also, if you need that starter right away and you're having trouble finding one locally, getting that starter rebuilt might be a better option. There are shops that specialize in the repair of the electric motors for cars, such as your alternator, your starter. They'll actually take your broken starter, replace the parts in it that are broken, and you're good to go. So depending on your situation, this may be a faster and more cost-effective solution. Now, if you're hearing any of the other sounds that we talked about, while it could be your starter, it could also be something else, like your electrical system. So you need to do a little more digging. The first thing I always start with is the battery and battery terminals. It's really easy to check terminals. You just come in here and try to figure out if your terminals are loose. Because if they're loose, it's going to cause all kinds of problems with your starter. So if those are nice and tight, next thing I go to is this battery. Is this battery okay? Simplest way to check your battery is to try to jump start it with another vehicle. You get a good set of jumper cables, not the cheapest ones. You hook those up and you try to jump start this with another vehicle. If it starts up great, well, you know it was probably that battery was the problem. If it still doesn't start, you got to move to the next thing. So after you've eliminated the battery as the problem, you just need to figure out what part of the electrical system is not allowing power to get from the ignition to the starter. A common one is the starter relay inside your fuse box. You have a relay for the starter and those can go bad. Also, what can happen is the main lead that goes from the positive terminal on the battery down to your starter, it's just a big thick wire, can become loose, deteriorate, break, and then your starter won't be receiving power. So once I've looked into those four things and they check out, then I'm going to throw a new starter in and hopefully that fixes it. Well, that about wraps things up. Thanks for watching. Tell us what you think about this video in the comments, or if you've got a unique sound that your car is making, drop us a link and we'll see you next time.